Hopefully you guys can pick up the audio on this mic because I don't want to talk too loud on the train. But I didn't have time to eat breakfast before I left this morning, so I packed a little snack bag. I've got peaches and Greek yogurt, 2 little egg muffins that I made last night, I have a fork to eat my yogurt, and then for later this afternoon to go with whatever lunch I get, like a sandwich or something, I also have a massive container of veggies and a bunch of ice cubes in here as well to keep it cold. We left this morning from the Saint-Lazare train station in Paris, and the train is about an hour and a half to get to Vernon. And then once we're at Vernon, we'll have to take a bus to Giverny. Normally the bus should arrive about 10 minutes once the train arrives. So hopefully I don't miss it because they come every like half hour. I'm really glad I took an early train just because it's super empty. So it gives me hope that there's not gonna be a lot of people going to Giverny and to see Monet's gardens and stuff early in the morning. But yeah, I'm just gonna eat my breakfast. I have my book, my headphones, and gonna enjoy this nice train ride. Okay, so we just got off the shuttle bus that took us from the Gare de Vernon to the city of Giverny, which is where you would go to see Claude Monet's house and the gardens. I was hopeful at the start because there weren't a lot of people on the shuttle bus, but then once I got to the little drop-off point near the house and the gardens, there was like 7 tour buses lined up. If you watch a couple of my videos, you'll gather that I hate crowds. I don't do well in crowded spaces. So I actually did plan for this. You have to book a time ticket when you come to Giverny. Sorry, when you come to Claude Monet's house in the gardens. And I knew that my train would get me to the drop-off point and the bus and everything at around 9:45. So instead of booking my ticket for 10, I ended up booking it for 10:30. That way I had time to walk into the city and explore the actual city of Giverny, which is where we are right now. And I could do that while the inflow of tourists that just got off the train and stuff headed in to see the gardens and the house. And I figured this would be a lot more relaxing way to enjoy my time here. And I think I made the right decision because, as you can see, there's no one. So yeah, that's where we are now. I'm gonna take you guys around the little city of Giverny, just show you what the town looks like, and then at around 10:30, we'll head back over to actually check out the gardens and Monet's house. So I just came across a hiking path panel that outlines a map of a hike that you can take through Giverny, and it says that it's 4.2K and 2 hours. I would really love to do this. I think I might end up coming back after I visit the gardens and stuff to do this hiking trail. It looks really good. Here's the map, and it actually says that you can head over to the welcome point at the tourist office or the town hall to ask for a guidebook, which I might try to do. But right now we're here, and the whole thing takes 2 hours to do. This is the direction that I would have to go in to get to the Claude Monet Foundation. So I think that's the direction we'll head in. But later today, I think we might just have to do this hike. I'm happy that I came prepared with my comfortable walking shoes. I've got water and snacks. So yeah, good to know, I guess, if you're coming to Giverny and you like a good hike. But yeah, let's keep exploring and eventually we'll get to Claude Monet's beautiful gardens. The line I just showed you guys was for people without tickets. Thank goodness I booked mine in advance. Here we are entering the Claude Monet Foundation, and more specifically the water garden. With the approval of the Préfecture, Monet had the first small pond dug, despite the fact that many at the time were opposed and afraid that his strange plants would poison the water. The famous water lily pond inspired Monet to create a colossal work composed of almost 300 paintings, the most notable collection being the Nymphéas, or the water lilies, which are on display at the Orangerie in Paris. Monet was fascinated by water and the way reflections constantly change on its surface. He even set up his workshop on a boat so that he could discover various points of view and be as close as possible to the mesmerizing waves. To be honest, the water garden was incredibly busy, and given that the paths are so narrow, it was a bit hard to enjoy amidst hundreds of other tourists. What I wouldn't give to have been able to walk through and enjoy the peace and beauty of this garden all alone. The Clos Normand was nothing short of magical. The variety and colors of the beautiful flowers scattered throughout this garden was breathtaking. Coming from the Paris cityscape, walking through these gardens and forgetting the color gray really felt like I was stepping back into a whole new world. The garden is divided into flower beds, and the flower clumps of all different heights and sizes really creates volume in what feels like organized chaos. As someone who really loves nature, it was such a joy to be here in these artistic and creative gardens. Walking through Monet's house was the most impressionable moment for me because the house was restored to perfection. So much so that it felt like you'd step back in time and that Monet would walk in from the gardens at any moment. One really notable detail is that every room in Monet's house had giant windows that opened to a perfect view of the Clos Normand gardens, which of course must have been a wonder to live in, but it's easy to understand how the beauty of these gardens inspired Monet's art on a daily basis. Here we've got Monet's bedroom, which he surprisingly didn't share with his wife. They had separate bedrooms because it was trendy at the time to follow the aristocracy and have separate apartments that were connected. This was pretty convenient for Monet though, because he could get up very early without waking his wife, and he loved to paint before sunrise. Here is his wife's bedroom for reference. Back on the lower level, we have the sitting room and the yellow kitchen. If you haven't picked up on it already, Monet loved colors and chose all the colors in the house. The yellow really enhances the blues of the dishes that are on display. And finally, we have the blue kitchen that's connected to the dining room to make service easier. The enormous coal and wood stove kept the kitchen very warm all year round. Once I was done visiting the gardens, I made my way over to the only boulangerie in the town. I grabbed a sandwich and set out on the hike. It was pretty funny because so many people had been there to visit the gardens, but I was virtually the only person out on this hiking trail. Okay, I'm about 1 kilometer into this 10K hike, but I found a really nice viewpoint with a flat enough piece of ground for me to sit down and have a little picnic. I'm pretty hungry. It's like 1 p.m. I didn't have time to eat in the city of Giverny just because there was no picnic benches and not really much space to sit on the ground. It's a lot of roads and stuff. I ended up getting a sandwich at the only boulangerie in the city, which actually looks really good, and it was super affordable. It was only €6, which is crazy. I also have my huge Tupperware of veggies to snack on and a water bottle. So yeah, I thought we could just picnic for the moment and continue hiking a little bit. I have some story times about the garden, some reviews to give you. So I figured I would do that while I'm eating as well. One thing I will say is I am so happy that I wore my running shoes and athletic clothing, and I brought my backpack because there was no way I would have been able to do this hike. Otherwise, it is really steep. Like, even for me who's relatively athletic, okay, it was challenging to even get to this viewpoint. We're only 1K in. But I totally understand why I'm the only person on this hike right now, just because a lot of the people that were going to the gardens obviously wanted to take nice pictures, so they were wearing really nice sandals and dresses. So yeah, the trade-off is that you don't get cute pictures, but you do get to enjoy truly a stunning hike. We're not even close to halfway in, and it's really beautiful. But yeah, let's sit down, let's have our picnic, and let me tell you about the gardens. I don't really have anywhere for me to balance you guys on, so you're kind of just sitting on top of my backpack, hanging on for dear life. I hope it's okay. But this is the sandwich that I got from the boulangerie, just a classic ham and pickle sandwich on a baguette. It looks really good. And I also have my massive Tupperware of vegetables. But yeah, I thought I could eat my lunch, maybe tell you guys a little bit about the gardens, about my experience, especially for those people who are thinking of coming to visit Giverny, especially in these summer months. Overall, the gardens were beautiful. They were stunning. There's no other way to say it. It was just an awe-inspiring experience, and it makes so much sense to me how Monet was able to get so much creativity from these gardens. Like, they were just breathtaking, truly. You could just stand there in awe of the whole thing. And especially if you've already seen his water lily paintings in the Orangerie in Paris, going and actually seeing the real life scene is pretty incredible. It adds a lot of context and appreciation to his paintings, which is really nice. On top of that, the house was really cool. It really felt like you were stepping back in time because you're walking through the house and it's all these period pieces and the floorboards are cracking, and it really feels like you've stepped back and you're sitting there with Monet and his family. And I thought it was especially interesting to be able to look out the windows and see the views that he saw on a daily basis. It just really made sense why he loved to be there and paint there and all that. Now, for the cons. It was jam-packed. I got there almost at opening time and it was already crowded. I was already overwhelmed. And by the time I was leaving, there was even more people. It was just unimaginable how many people they could fit into those gardens. And the problem for me was the busloads and busloads of tour groups, because they come into the gardens, right, and they're on a tour, and the garden paths are so thin. So you have to wait for these 70 people to walk through a place, and because they're on a guided tour, you know, they're stopping and they're listening to the guide who's speaking to them in a headset. And so you just have these massive groups of literally 70 people just stopped. And if you're not on that tour, you have nothing to do but literally wait for their guide to finish speaking for them to move on. And it just felt so unfair to me because we're not on these tours. Like, it'd be a totally different thing if they were walking slower through the gardens. Like, no problem, I'm there to appreciate the gardens as well. But when you are stopping and you're preventing other people from getting through the gardens, it's just really annoying. And there was one case in particular where the tour guide stopped and I was over it. I had already waited like a good 15 minutes for this tour group. So I just, tried to squeeze around this tour group because they were standing in front of a map. They weren't looking at the map, but they were standing in front of the map of the gardens. And I just wanted to quickly get a picture of the map so I could move on with my life and get out of this crowded area. And they wouldn't let me get through to take a picture of this map. And finally, I was able to squeeze through. And this British older man turns to me, he goes, "You're so rude." I'm like, I don't know what's rude about me literally just wanting to take a picture of the map of the gardens. Like, it just seemed ridiculous to me that this man was calling me rude when his tour group was literally holding up all of these people behind them and preventing them from, looking at the map or enjoying the gardens. So that sucked. And then at another point, we get to a really pretty viewpoint of the lily pads, right? Everyone wants to take a picture. Everyone wants to soak in the view. And I get it. We all want to get that nice picture. I want to get a nice video for my YouTube video. And so I'm sitting there patiently, like totally understanding. There's these 3 girls ahead of me. They want to take these cute little pictures. And I'm like, oh, would you like me to take one of you 3 together? And so once they've got their single shots, I take a picture of them together. And this German couple, again, older German couple from behind us yells, oh, you know, we all want to take pictures too, hurry up. And it's like, we all paid to come and see these gardens. We all deserve to take a nice photo at the lily pads. Like, just a little bit of patience would be nice. And these 2 situations happened within 5 minutes of each other. And it just frustrates me that a lot of tourists don't have respect when they come to these places. Like, I get that you paid for this trip. I get that you paid to go on this tour, but I also paid for a ticket to come see these gardens. Like, I have every right to be here and take a picture as much as you do. And it's not going to kill you to wait 2 minutes for these girls to get a group photo, you know? So, all that to say, it was incredibly busy. I actually had to line up to go and see the house, which wasn't too bad. I think I probably waited 20 minutes in line, and I thought that was bad. But then when I was coming out of the house, the line had quadrupled in size. It was wrapped around the entire house. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I got there early and there were so many people, but there were just so many more when I was leaving. So I don't know what the solution to that is. I guess go early in the day. What I think is probably a better solution, although you don't get to see the flowers in full bloom, but it's probably better to go and see the gardens a little bit later in the summer or even in September. But yeah, aside from the crowds, I really did enjoy the experience of seeing the gardens and the house. I ended up going through the gift shop and I picked up some coasters. I will show you guys a little clip because I can't get them out of my backpack because you're sitting on my backpack. But I got this coaster set for Jean and I because I've been looking for coasters for a very long time, for my grandma and also for Jean's mom. So that was kind of cool. Oh, and I also got my grandma a set of seeds that she can plant in her garden. It's sort of like a pack of seeds that you can plant and replicate Monet's gardens back home where you live. So yeah, very cool gifts. I'm excited. I think that everyone will love them. And overall, it was really nice. I do have to say that as I'm on this hike, I'm really enjoying appreciating even more nature and even more beautiful views, but without the crowds. So yeah, that was my little rant. That was my little review. I hope you guys are enjoying this vlog so far. I am really having a good time. Truly, if you come to Giverny, make sure you bring the shoes and the backpack so that you can do this hike because it really is breathtaking and it's nice to get that break away from the crowds and busloads of tourists if you're like me and you don't, you feel anxious in crowds. So yeah, I'm gonna finish eating my lunch and we'll head back out and continue our hike. I have to say, you guys, I'm liking this hike a lot less and less as it goes on. It's a very isolating hike, really in the middle of nowhere. And I don't know if you'll be able to hear it in the background, but people are shooting weapons, like guns. And it was so loud back there in the forest that I started crying and I called Jean because I'm like, if anyone's gonna know what I should do, it's probably gonna be Jean. So I called him and he looked it up and there apparently is a shooting range right beside this hiking trail. And it's like, it's terrifying when you're in the middle of the woods and you can't see anything, but you hear the sound of gunshots getting closer and closer. And I'm really disappointed because I have a guide for this. Like I bought like a little guide pamphlet for this hike. And I also went to the tourism office at Giverny to ask about this hike, and they probably should have mentioned that there was a shooting range right in the middle of the hike because it was really terrifying. I'm also not 100% sure that I'm still on the correct trail just because, like, as you can see, it looks like I'm literally walking through a farm and there's really not that many indications. I haven't come across one in a while, so yeah, let's just keep those fingers crossed. I hope I get back to Giverny at some point. I would turn around, except I don't want to go back through the shooting range. Like, there's no way. I can still hear it in the distance. Like, there's no way I want to put myself through that again. But yeah, this is This is a tough one. Okay, these look like the trail symbols, so we must be heading in the right direction. I hope. Like, do you see how isolating this is? It's just really in the middle of nowhere. And maybe it's because I'm doing this hike alone, but I really don't feel safe right now. Like, it's just really, really isolated. And if I needed help or anything, no one would hear me. Hi again, you guys. Editing this video was so funny because to watch my happiness at the start of the hike turn into crying trauma by the end is just like hysterical looking back. The reason why I didn't film like a conclusion to this vlog while I was in Giverny or even when I got home is because I got so lost on this hike that I didn't even think that I would make it home on the train that I'd booked. I walked for 3.5 hours, and I'll just mention that I am directionally challenged. I cannot follow a map to save my life, clearly, because I walked for a solid 3.5 hours in the wrong direction. And because it was in the wrong direction and I wasn't on the loop, it wasn't like eventually I would make it back to the city. It was like, here's the city, and I walked 3.5 hours up and over, and I was nowhere near getting back to Giverny. So, oh, another thing too, I only had 10% battery left on my phone. Like, it was so scary. I called Jean, we were sending screenshots. As soon as he gave me his input and like gave me some directional advice, I put my phone on airplane mode and just walked along a literal highway for 1 hour and 15 minutes to get back to the city of Giverny. I could have turned around and just retraced my steps, but one, as you guys know, I did not want to go back through the shooting range, and two, it would have taken me 3.5 hours to walk back as opposed to 1 hour and 15 minutes along this highway thing. So yeah, I was just completely, by the time I got home, I was sunburnt, exhausted, barely able to get home. Jean had to pick me up at the train station. It was a mess. So unfortunately on that day I did not get to finish the outro to this video, but thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed discovering Giverny and the Claude Monet Foundation with me. I truly enjoyed it. I loved it. It was wonderful to see, so I definitely recommend that you guys go check it out. I think that it might even be better to go in September, to be honest, because I think it'll be less crowded and I think you'll still have some of the flowers in bloom. So yeah, that is all for me in today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this vlog, and I'll see you guys in my next one.